Hello there everyone, my name is Darren and today I'll be presenting my group's project assignment for our subject, which is the long dough production for bakeries good industry. So this is basically and roughly our PFD, which is the process flow diagram for our project. So let me go through one by one, but generally, so we have three raw materials, which is water, ingredient I would say, not material, water, yeast, flour, and each of them has their own dedicated storage, which is water tank, yeast storage, and fine flour storage. And we mix them into a mixer, and then we use a conveyor belt to smoothly transfer the mixer into a kneader machine, and then after kneading it we make it rest so that the yeast could ferment, and then we shaped it into a long dough, and then we use a conveyor belt to also smoothen the process to transfer to the output. So let me clarify, for the output is that maybe after making the shape of a long dough, the mixture, basically output is where the baking process introduces itself. Maybe, yeah, the output is basically production of baking and then packaging it and then distribute it for business purposes or the demands of clients. So let me explain why this I would say valve with sensor exists. This sensors exist, I would say the valve sensor exists. So each of them has their own sensor. Is that before mixing together, basically in pastry you need a specific amount of water and a specific amount of yeast and also flour to create a good and optimal mixture. For example, I would say, let's say if there's too much yeast, maybe in the resting station the fermentation could be rapid, could be a rapid fermentation, which it could cause that the crust, after baking it, the crust can become overly soft and the interior could dry out much more faster, leading to a stale loaf sooner than expected. Same thing as maybe too much flour or too much water. The mixture would be not optimal, as maybe too much water to make it much more soggier, or maybe too much flour to make it much more hard, and it's quite difficult to knead, especially if you're not using a machine. But in this case, because we are dealing with industrial, we have a kneader machine. So for the kneader machine, the kneader machine could also measure parameters such as the temperature and viscosity to ensure the proper dough consistency. So after it rests, and then we basically shape it using the shaping machine roller to become a long dough. So I guess the reason why we use I would say the water tank, the yeast storage, and the fine flour storage is that to reduce labor costs, because sometimes we want to make this in industrial, I would say industrial production, much more independent. It operates independently so that we also can reduce, yeah, I would say the labor costs. um, for example, maybe per batch we only need to use like 5 liters of water to make a long dough, and maybe like I would say theoretically 500 grams of I would say flour, yeast, and then maybe like a 5 kilo flour. But with this water tank and storage and yeast storage and both of the storage flour, it could hold so much more that it could produces independently continuous batch, rather than it holds for like maybe an hour, because we need stuff or labor to manually insert these raw materials again into the mixer machine. So it's better to make it much more independent. So I would like to explain for the pulverizer machine for the flour. So why do we need to pulverize the flour. I would say pulverizing is basically you sifting the flour to make it much more finer. So basically putting your flour through a sifter, which can break up any lumps, any lumps in the flour, which means that you can get a more accurate measurement. And also it is much more easier and lighter to mix if you do it manually for pastries. So basically, let me give you a TLDR. Too long didn't read. So basically, how our project would work in an industrial environment situation. Basically, we have only three raw ingredients for this project, which is water, yeast, and flour, and each of them has their own storage for independent purposes to make the throughout process much more independent and reduce labor costs. And they go through sensor valve with sensor to give an accurate measurement, or to give to give an accurate measurement to produce an optimal mixture. And then three of them went into a mixer machine, and then after mixer machine we transport the dough. I would say the dough, before turning into a long dough, we transport using the conveyor belt, and then through the kneader machine, and then we let it rest. And after we let it rest, we shaped it into the shape of a long dough. And then after that, we use another conveyor belt to transport it into the output. Like I said previously, basically output is for the next process, for baking, or maybe after baking, packaging. So yes, this is our PFD, our process flow diagram for our project. And I think that is all from me. Basically, this is our PFD. Thank you very much for listening and watching.